Good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of the Emerald Coast. We are a covenantal community founded on loving kindness and a common devotion to our free faith. I'm the Reverend Ruth Van Lillian, and I'm honored to serve as the minister here. My pronouns are she, her. I want to welcome those visiting with us today and welcome to those who are joining us virtually. We are so glad you are here. As a part-time contract minister, I cannot be with you in person every Sunday, but you are all on my mind and in my heart as you gather together this morning to lift up what is worthy and sacred in our lives. How are you feeling today? Joyful? Anxious? Content? Sad? Uncertain? Excited? Confused? Eager? However you are feeling and whatever you are seeking, you are welcome here. You find yourself in the company of the curious, the questioning, the hopeful. We are a band of faith explorers, each searching for meaning, none forcing their beliefs on others, all learning from one another's discoveries. May you find refreshment and restoration in our service this morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of the Emerald.
Service, and we have some announcements from RE as well with Amy.
Something dreadful must have happened. Oh no. So I think all the parents know that we are trying to get a good sign-in practice going in RE where when you come in, sign in your children either to the nursery, the sign-in things are right by the door, sign into the nursery or to the Piper room for the older kids. And then after the service, we don't let anybody go, kids, until their parents come back for them and sign them out. And then at the beginning of second hour, sign them back in. And at the end of second hour, come and get them and sign them out. That way we're not letting kids sort of just loose to run around and nobody knows where they are. Which sometimes, most times that works, but, well, you know, you have children. Okay. The other thing is that that we are required to have 2 people in the nursery and 2 people in the Piper room. That's really in case of an emergency if one of the people has to leave and take a child or, you know, whatever. So that there's always 2 people there. So today we have 2 people in the Piper room and we have Cassie in the nursery and Margot's mom, who doesn't have a name, but her name is Margot's mom. It's good. That's okay. Look, I was Bonnie and Angie's mom for years and years and years. She'll be back there with Margot, but if we get down to one person, then you either need to stay with your nursery person, little child, or they need to stay with you. Okay? Does that make sense? Okay.
Other announcements are listed in your order of service, including descriptions of upcoming services. We have a lot of exciting things planned for September, so I hope you'll be here. After the service today, we have a time for refreshments and conversation in the back, followed by second hour discussion groups. Today we have Porch Swing right up here in the front of the sanctuary, where we discuss today's sermon and our reactions to it, how we connect with it. We have TED Talks in the library, led by Josh Ashley, and Pagan Pathways in the Harmony Room up front. Trudy couldn't be here, so Christina is going to take over for that. Also notice that there is service leader training next Saturday. We've got a number of people coming. If you just suddenly this morning think, oh, I I would like to do that. Show up. It's easy. And now the prelude prepares us for the service. Emily is going to light our chalice this morning. What is this fire? A match, a wick, a flame. What is this place? Wood and stone and glass. Yet here we have gathered in this place, before this flame, making each holy by our presence here together. Please stand as you're able for our opening hymn, number 18 in the gray hymnal, What Wondrous Love. Will the children come up for the time for all ages? So when I got up this morning, I kind of had an idea what was going to happen today. I was going to go to church. I knew what I was going to do this afternoon. Kind of had a plan. You probably do too most of the time, right? Well, at least you know if it's a school day. Is it a gymnastics day? Is it a soccer game day? You have a general idea. But then things happen, right? And sometimes, well, for example, one thing that happened today was apparently I didn't send the pictures for the story, so you're going to have to look really closely or use your imagination. So there's that. But often things happen that are so tiny, you think it's not going to matter at all. You may not even notice it. And yet it may change your whole day or your whole life or the whole world. And that's what happens in this story called World Pizza. The tall hill with the cherry trees and the soft grass for chairs was the best place to look for a wishing star. Mama found such a star, the first to be seen in more than 100 years. It was not the brightest or the biggest in the sky that night, but it was still a true wishing star. So Mama made her wish. I wish for world peace. Achoo! Said Mama. A floating cherry blossom had tickled her nose into a giant sneeze. Mama wished for world pizza, said Jack. I think she meant world peace, said Papa. I definitely heard world pizza, said Joe. Peace, said Papa. Pizza, howled Baby Mo. He reached up and squeezed Papa's nose. Let's not fight, said Mama. Just then, a pizza fell from the sky, landing in Mama's lap, gentle as a warm blanket. The kids didn't know about peace, but they did know about pizza, and this particular one was delicious. Mama, in her heart, still wished for peace, for a world filled with kindness and love and no fighting, but she agreed the pizza was delicious. So they ate until their bellies were full and everyone was happy. Across the world, in another town, on another hill, sat another family. And another pizza, carried on the wind, appeared. This one landed atop the father's head. That family agreed the pizza was delicious, so they ate until their bellies were full and everyone was happy. Pizza appeared in valleys, in deserts, and on the very topmost points of snowy, blowy mountains. Pizza rained down onto cars, subways, boats, and planes. People living in the biggest building of the biggest town got pizza. People living in the smallest building of the smallest town got pizza. People with no place to live at all got pizza. Those people got extra pizza. There was spicy pepper pizza, salty seaweed pizza, chocolate cherry pizza, extra cheesy with pickles pizza. None of the pizzas were the same, but they were all delicious. Some people dipped their pizza in hummus, while others dipped their pizza in guacamole. Some people made pizza chow mein, and some people made pizza sushi. Some even made pizza soup. They all agreed the different pizzas were delicious, and they all shared, and everyone was happy. The bully on the playground pointed and laughed at the unusual-looking pizzas until the kids offered him a slice. He ate and realized he liked those new flavors and kind of liked those new friends even more. The pirates on the rough ocean seas put down their swords to eat pizza. They agreed the pizza was superb, and once they stopped fighting, they realized they were tired of being angry and tired of hurting each other, so they kicked their swords to the bottom of the sea, and all the pirates were happy. Even angry neighbors with tall fences and locked doors got pizza. They peeked over their fences and frowned at those pizzas that looked nothing like their own. They shook their fists and called out, "Go away," to the people who liked those different things, until the scrumptious smell made them stop, and they looked at the faces of all those different people eating every kind of pizza imaginable. They saw the smiles and couldn't help but smile back, so they opened their doors wide and joined the fun outside. There were pizza tasting contests, pizza tossing, pizza parties, even a pizza parade. On the top of that tall hill with the cherry trees and the soft grass for chairs, Mama picked up the last piece of pizza. She gave it to the stray dog that followed them home. As she tucked the kids in that night, Jack yawned and said, "Mama, I'm sorry you didn't get your wish for world peace." Mama gave each child a kiss and turned out the light. "Next time," she whispered. The family fell asleep, cozy in the warmth of their peaceful dreams. And everyone was happy. So, what do you suppose this author really wanted us to learn, besides that we like pizza? We'll set that one aside. Or if they're not liking pizza, huh? What were they really saying? What do you think? The pizza did kind of make world peace. Mama didn't even know it, did she? Sometimes things happen to us and we can't even foresee how it's all going to come out, but good can come of it. And you know, that bit of world peace, it didn't really come from eating pizza. It came from accepting all these people who are different from yourselves and doing different things from yourselves. And once you get to know them, probably they're going to end up being your friends. So that's a good lesson for us. Thanks for listening. You are invited to briefly share personal events in your life by dropping a pebble into the bowl of water silently or while speaking into the microphone. We support each other in sorrows and celebrate in joy. adapted from Marcus Liefert and end with a chime. Imagine a big tree of life mosaic created by a fellowship. Congregants of all ages coming together to craft the tree's leaves using bits and pieces of broken ceramics, jewelry, glass, and stone. Trash, really. There are a few precious items in the tree. Fragments of the Berlin Wall, a watch face, pieces of great-grandma's china. Like the members of the community that brought them together, each part is imbued with memories and meaning. Each fragment holds a piece of the truth. We Unitarian Universalists are mosaic makers. We are a people who bring together the broken parts of our histories and the shining parts of our seeking, and piece by piece we create a mosaic religion. Our tree of life is found in the stories of our living tradition. But our mosaic making tells another story too, one that is often more difficult to see, one that is essential to the purpose of religious community. It lies not in the broken and beautiful bits and pieces, but in the grout. Grout. That chalky, gritty stuff that's squeezed between the cracks of the tiles. In a mosaic, the grout holds the image together, unifying pieces into a whole. The grout of a community takes years to lay and settle. Grout happens in board meetings and committee meetings and endless emails. It is in a shared ride to church, coffee and snacks after the service, cleanup days, and deep discussions during second hour. While the folks who show up for church only occasionally will hopefully enjoy the beauty of the mosaic, they may never know the power of the grout that holds us through all the seasons of life. We help to make the grout when we learn each other's names, when we reach out across generational divides. We help to make the grout when we show up on Sunday morning without having checked first to see if we're interested in the topic. When a newborn arrives to be blessed by the community, it is the grout that enables us to welcome them. And it is the grout that we rest when we gather to grieve and memorialize a loved one who has died. Hold us, O grout. Gather us in through time and space and make all our broken pieces whole in community. In our multiplicity, make us one. From each of our jagged edges, give us the shape of communal beauty. After our song of dedication, the greeters will take up the offering. Generosity is a spiritual practice. Our fellowship is supported by our pledges and donations. If you're paying your pledge with a check, write that in the memo line, please. We also share our cash offering and any checks with STP or share the plate in the memo line with a local charity. For September, our Share the Plate partner is PFLAG. PFLAG is the nation's largest organization dedicated to supporting, educating, and advocating for LGBTQ+ people and those who love them. The local chapter meets here in our building, with the next meeting being Sunday, September 7th at 6 p.m. All are welcome. Please be generous. Our speaker this morning is a member of our fellowship, Joshua Moore. If you were here last week, you heard me tell about the sermon writing class Reverend Ruth offered last spring to assist lay members in improving their ability to craft a sermon. We love hearing from our members as it helps us make deeper connections, make that grout, and get to know each other better. Here's Joshua.
Hi, it's great to see you all this morning. When I left Florida the first time, I left behind a whole lot more than just a place. I left my home, my culture, my faith, my people. I was free as a person could be in those early labor pains of our tumultuous century. And yet, I was alone. I needed something. And like a gift from heaven, maybe, an opportunity, a new rabbit hole appeared. After leaving home and tramping around the U.S. aimlessly, I was eventually guided to take part in the 2009 annual Rainbow Gathering, held that year deep in the enchanted New Mexican forest. An anarchic gathering of hippies from all over the world. Rainbow gatherings, basically just giant campouts in the woods, where like-minded folk of all colors of the rainbow, all walks of life, nations, and creeds, or indeed those without any creed at all gather together to build a temporary village of peace and love. The goal is to create a welcoming space where we can pray for peace, hope for a better world, and connect with others who are interested in making real change in the world. Sounds familiar. And among all the wild sights and sounds of all that diverse and eclectic fringe folk and weirdos, what struck me the most was what would change my life forever was the opportunity to be of use to someone else. As I mentioned before, the entire event was put on for free, just by volunteers. As soon as I realized that, and anyone might know me, they would know this to be true, but as soon as I realized that, I hopped right in to help out. And what followed was a kind of therapy that I didn't even know that I needed. And so it was that the moment my beat-up sedan pulled to a stop after miles and miles of dirt forest roads, I was immersed in shouts of, "Welcome home!" and a handful of hippies, and immediately pulled me into a mission, chosen as a volunteer to help scout out the main meadow, whatever that is. The center around, I would come to learn, the center around which the rest of the gathering would be built. Ali, an old head who had been coming to Rainbow since the 70s, led me down a winding path from a makeshift parking lot at least 2 miles down, up and down ravines, over creeks, and through the beautiful New Mexican woods, through a copse of trees, and then out onto a great wide meadow, resting near the center of this massive caldera at the top of a once active volcano, peppered with wildflowers and shrubs, a rare beauty in this industrialized world. Ali and I sat on a large stone outcropping, and we shared a peace pipe in silence. The wind blew through our hair and mingled with our breath. The birds sang, "Welcome." Then, after a long moment, Ali asked me, "Brother, can you see our family here?" Our family? He barely knew me. I just got here. But somehow, he saw me as family. I looked out over the meadow, took it all in. I said, "Oh yes, I think I can." For most of my life, I've never felt like I was much of a use to anyone. In fact, I often felt like I was in the way, or a waste of space. In my childhood, this manifested in serious depression and suicidal ideation. I felt like I could just never be good enough for the incredibly high standards that my conservative, evangelical parents put on me. I always fell short. I was always wrong. No matter what, I could never find a way to please my parents. And by extension, I didn't feel like I could please God either. I grew to believe that the best that I could do with my life was find a good career that paid well and hope that it wasn't something that would break down my soul or crush my body. It was this feeling that drove me to leave home, to leave behind polite society entirely. Years later, when I started picking up trash at Rainbow, I found that it didn't at all feel like a job, just a piece here and there. It didn't feel soul-crushing. It didn't feel alienating. It wasn't exploitative. I saw the grateful looks that people had on their faces. Noticed the improvement of the trails and the green spaces, free of Babylon's candy wrappers, cigarette butts. I felt glad to be able to just clean up. Each time I bent over to grab yet another piece of dirty, shiny trash, I felt a joy that I never felt before. I had been expected to figure out a way to make something of myself in this unforgiving world full of competition, dog-eat-dog mentality, run and controlled by the most greedy. No matter what, I could not see myself within that inhumane system. I didn't feel valued. I didn't feel that I was seen for my inherent worth. It's hard to argue, I believe, that the shape of this modern world is largely driven by never-ending search for more profit, more wealth. We could have built our world with human needs as our central concern. That's not what happened. But in the rehabilitating act of picking up trash, I found that I could make a material impact on my life and the lives of others. I was no longer a passive observer of this wild hippie festival. I was a participant in a community. This is the heart of what we call mutual aid, and is the key ingredient in a healthy, connected community. In mutual aid, we see ourselves as an integral part of it all. Friends, let me tell you, we come and we go in a blink of an eye. And the longer that I live, the more I become aware of how precious that finite time is. And I believe that if we are to live up to our values as a people of faith who seek justice, who seek to spread a transformative hope throughout the world through the power of love, we must take seriously how we spend our time on earth. And as for my finite time, I have found that it's best spent with friends, with family, my beloved community. The times when I am most depressed and most anxious are the times when I am most alone and isolated and withdrawn. But I have found hope and strength in creating for myself life-defining commitments to my family and to my community. Every single day I have left is another day that I get to spend committed to serving my friends and my family. In service to them and you, I feel renewed, and I find that my service is reciprocated. It comes back. In this way, I become so much more than a mere individual. In fact, I become superhuman. For now, I can accomplish so many things that I couldn't do on my own. I am comforted in my distress and aided in my quests, just as I comfort others and join in their quests. Many, many years passed from my first faithful rainbow gathering. I see now in this story in what the radical Reverend Theodore Parker called complete and perfect religion. The love of God and the love of man, which he goes on to say are not really separate, but run into one another so that you cannot tell where one begins and the other ends. To Parker, to love God is to love others, and to love others is to love God. I personally don't think it's necessary to believe in an actual God to sympathize with Parker's sentiment. Parker's close friend and transcendentalist colleague and fellow troublemaker, Ralph Waldo Emerson, in his infamous Divinity School address, describes what he calls divine law that wells up from the depths of every person, their natural tendency towards goodness. And then, to the chagrin of the old clergy in the room of the day, I am sure, he claimed that these laws refuse to be adequately stated. They will not be written out on paper or spoken by the tongue, yet we read them hourly in each other's faces. In a simple act of service, picking up trash for me, I stumbled into an understanding of at least maybe the outline of these divine laws. And I'd begun along the pathway to what Parker called complete and perfect religion. In joining in a Unitarian Universalist congregation, I have found many more opportunities to be of service. For example, when I volunteer to be the service leader, I become an integral part of everything that happens on Sunday morning. Please come for service leader training. I am no longer an observer, but now an active participant in our living faith tradition. All around me, I find capable people with hearts like mine who have found a home in this fellowship, just as I have. I depend on them, and they depend on me. In my opinion, this is what it means to love God and love each other. What the Rabbi Jesus called the greatest commandment. It means that in our communal action, in the daily words and deeds that tie us together as a community, we can understand ourselves not as individuals, but an important piece of that interconnected web of which we all are a part. Emerson described the light of goodness, of godliness, as a sort of warmth. Its relationship to evil is not a positive, negative relationship, but one of abundance or lack thereof. Goodness, in this sense, fills us in our community with a warm glow, the essence of love for love's sake. An absence of that goodness is felt as deprivation from that inner and outer light. When we serve each other, we fill our communities with the goodly qualities some have ascribed to God or godliness. This, I believe, is what Jesus could have meant when he spoke of the kingdom of heaven, saying in the Coptic Gospel of Thomas that the kingdom is within you and outside of you. If I could make a request as you go out into your communities, find ways to be of service. Look for those who need help and offer it. Find some way that you can be of help to someone in a simple, material way. In this work, we grow further intertwined and more deeply connected. We already depend on each other in so many macrocosmic, existential ways. Empathy, I believe, is about truly living into this reality and through love and through service. In 2022, my whole family and I finally made it back to a rainbow gathering. After a tough pandemic and the general stress of raising two opinionated and sassy children, and many of you know them, it was good to get back to the woods and to the rainbow family that had taught me so much. And as we hiked our gear miles into the Colorado mountains, we crested a hill, came down into this idyllic little hippie village, tents dotting the countryside, prayer flags strewn about the aspen trees, incense on the wind, singing and playing, humming, people helping other people, looking each other in the eye, saying, "I love you. Welcome home." My son, Shua, he looked over to me and said, "You know, I think that this is probably what heaven looks like. May it be so, and amen."
Please join in our hymn, "We Would Be One," number 318. Stand as you're able. We leave blessed by our connections to one another, to the spirit of life. Walk lightly that you see the life that is below your feet. Spread your arms as if you had wings and could dance through the air. Feel the joy of the breath in your lungs and the fire in your heart. Live to love and be a blessing on this earth. Please stay seated for the postlude. Thank you for coming. Join us for refreshments and conversation in second hour.